I do not, have never, and will never count calories. In this week's episode, I will tell you why. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast, where each week I will be discussing all things fasting and how it can become the most valuable tool in your personal toolkit so that you can live a long, healthy, and meaningful life. I'm your host, Vicki Sharon, and thank you for joining me.
Hello, saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Before Shopify, were you wondering, where are my sales at? Now you're selling with Shopify, the global commerce platform supercharging your selling. You have no problem selling online, in person, on social media, and beyond. Gary, easy on the cha-ching.
Oh, sorry, but my Shopify sales are through the roof.
Start selling with Shopify today and discover how millions of businesses around the world use Shopify to ignite their selling. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/listen. Shopify.com/listen.
To start this week's episode, I'm going to again challenge you with a question. I'm going to ask you what your reason is if you feel that you need to count calories. What is your reason why? Is it because a doctor, a nurse, a dietitian? Is it medically necessary that you need to stay within a certain amount of calories for medical reasons, like real serious medical reasons? Or is it your personal thoughts, beliefs, what you've been told from the opinions of others or societal influences and what we've been told from different previous methods that you may have tried in the past? I want you to really think and write down. Side note, it would be a great spot to write it in your handbook, the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Official Handbook. Write down. I want you to really think about, dissect, and identify what those reasons are. And unless they are absolutely medically necessary, I want you to challenge those beliefs. I want you to challenge the things that we've been told for so long that it has to be this certain way, that, you know, whether it's carbohydrates or total fat count or the amount of protein, I feel like there's so much restructuring that needs to go on in our headspace with how we see the quality, the attention put into the foods that we eat, how we choose them, how we prepare them. If I asked you right now, list off 5 of your favorite foods that are consequently pretty good for you, could you do it? Would you feel comfortable and confident in those choices? Again, this is another great opportunity for those that do have the handbook. You can write down what foods that you like, that you feel good about, that you can see yourself having on a regular, consistent basis that would be considered quote unquote, all the time foods. And if you're struggling to come up with 5 foods that you like and would consider all the time foods, this is where you can look at your list of sometimes foods that you've also written down in the handbook, right? I know you did it. You did it. Look at those sometimes foods, and I want you to challenge yourself to think about how you can creatively, your own way, not to anybody else's metric, your own way, add or tweak the recipe or the way that you prepare it. You don't always have to follow a recipe. I'm a recipe renegade. I don't follow a recipe. I have a loose idea in my mind and I go with it. But I want you to challenge yourself to step out of your comfort zone and try preparing. Even if you mess up, it's a great learning experience. Think about how you can prepare those sometimes foods with a healthier little twist to it in those all the time foods kind of ingredients, and really enjoying that creative hands-on kind of process in putting it all together, in combining foods and getting playful with flavors and spices and seasonings in the kitchen. Throughout my journey, I have truly enjoyed my evolution of skills with preparing foods in the kitchen. And I've spoken about this before, but my food choices and preparation method in the beginning of my journey looked absolutely nothing like the way that I am presently. And that is, again, with the weight loss that you're going to experience on this journey. It's a slow growth, a slow process of change and trial and error, figuring out what you like, what don't you like, what foods you can combine, what foods are local to you, what foods are in season, and just getting playful, getting as creative as possible with your food choices when you're at the grocery store or farmer's market or wherever. And while I don't advocate for food lists and like rigidity in your overall, diet, I say diet as a, side note, diet, I want you to think about diet is just a way of eating. It's a style of eating, like a vegetarian diet, like a vegan diet, like a carnivore diet. Think of it as a way, a method of eating instead of a restrictive, limiting kind of lists of rules and policies and expectations that you have to follow. We're removing that negative attachment. Okay. We're removing that. So if you're unhappy with your current diet, I'm going to encourage you to, over time, slowly, one by one, bit by bit, food by food, think about how you can make improvements without punishment, without restriction, without labeling that it has to be a certain numerical value of food eaten each and every single day, measured. Because I don't know about you, just thinking about that makes me tense up and feel super stressed out at even just the memory of the amount of times that I was in that position myself of measuring and counting and logging. No, I did not do that at all throughout my entire over 200-pound weight loss journey with fasting. It was never an action that I did. And I know it's possible. I'm living proof of it. And there are many others that have had the same journey and experience themselves with removing those limitations. So with that, I'm also going to encourage you to think about how you can be present when you're eating as well. This means removing distractions and removing those things that are occupying the mind while we're eating. So while you're eating, I personally feel you need to be as present and in this moment as possible, especially if this is the first meal coming out of your fast. Even when you are breaking your fast, it isn't something that you just want to quickly inhale and carry on. This process of consuming fuel that we're putting into our bodies, you will see, if you have not experienced already, that it needs to be this enjoyable process where you are making that bodily transition from consuming your body fat for energy to now having food in your stomach that your body is going to be able to utilize for fuel. So for me, my stress and importance on the quality of food that I'm choosing grows. It has grown over time in my assignment of value and importance since starting. Because like I've said in the beginning, my first 2 weeks, I didn't change anything besides the amount of time that I was eating each day. So I knew I honestly felt it, truth story, I felt it after the 1 week period. But it was after that 2 week period that I made the realization that I have to start cleaning up my food choices. I need to continue to revise and change the amount of food that I was eating, for one, because it was still a lot and I knew my stomach had to continue to shrink down, but also the quality of the food that I was putting in my body. I want you to think about this for a moment. The quality of the food that you're putting in your body, in your eating window, is going to sustain you for a portion of time until your body is able to completely burn and use it until it's able to make that conversion into using your stored body fat as energy. So to me, over time, I continued to realize and put together the importance of this fuel that I was putting into my body, that I needed to make sure that it was food that I felt extremely confident and happy, proud of, content with. And again, like I said in the beginning, this is not something where I started off perfect. And this is why we need to step away from that perfection has to be, to the T, everything perfect to the letter. A lot of the food that I ate was overly processed. It was overly still sweetened. And over time, my taste preference changed dramatically. I'm no longer that sweets person. And for me, I much rather would prefer if I'm going for like a snack. And my side note, my snacks now are not at all to what my initial snack choices were when I first started out. But I am so much more now a savory person. Like I love the savory saltiness of like different flavors of like nuts that I buy. Like we've got these dill cashews that are great. I love salt and vinegar. These pistachios, I think you may have heard me talk about them before, but the Pistachios brand, they make a salt and vinegar one. And just those kind of salty, savory, umami taste kind of flavors are way more enjoyable to me now than where I was when I first started, where I had the biggest sweet tooth and I wanted sugary, processed junk, like, give it to me all the time. And this mindfulness through the process of eating, of preparing our food, everything allows you to challenge what those habits, what those choices were, what your regular gotta always have this. And that's, if you're the type of person that always has to have this and you always, when you're having this meal, it has to have this side with this side. This is where you're going to day by day, because remember, little bits at a time, you're day by day going to challenge what you thought you always had to have with your food, what you only knew about. You're going to be getting way more creative, way more playful on this. And you're just going to have so many other creative options and avenues open up to you, so long as you still have that open learning kind of growth mindset with food combinations of the foods that you like, that you would consider your all the time foods. And this is where I want folks really to think about those lists, right? You're sometimes and all the time in the handbook, right? Thinking about how you can achieve the flavor, the really overall experience as having those sometimes foods made up of as many all the time foods as possible. And having that kind of balance of satisfying, but you feel really good about it at the same time. That's how I go into preparation of every single meal. This is going to meet that, this is really good. For example, for tonight, I'll tell you what we had for dinner tonight. We had homemade, always homemade, Vicky, homemade vegan macaroni and cheese with penne pasta. I made my own vegan dairy-free cheese sauce, and I sauteed that with a meatless replacement with some garlic, onions, and then frozen spinach kale kind of combination, and combine it all together. So there was an incredibly large amount of nutrient density. That's my goal with every time I'm preparing food. I want to make it as nutrient dense as possible, getting as many of those readily available nutrients, micronutrients that your body needs. And, as a side note, folks that I've spoken to about thinking whether or not they need to take a multivitamin or not. And this can also relate to the bioavailability of those nutrients in the foods that you're choosing. And that's going to depend on how processed the foods you are consuming are. Are they bleached and then enriched? Are they fortified and processed with that? If that were me, side note, starting off, I would think about weaning myself off of those overly processed foods, if that's you. Because I'm telling you, over time, transitioning into as minimally processed food as possible. I know we can't go to like zero processing because it's the world that we live in, but honestly, the dose makes the poison. And if the very high percentage of the food that you're eating is heavily processed, I promise you, you are going to feel so much better inside out when you are able to, creatively, enthusiastically, make your own version of those foods that you tend to gravitate towards as your sometimes foods. And, like I said, the dinner that I made tonight, macaroni and cheese, who doesn't love macaroni and cheese, right? And of course, having a slight challenge learning curve with it being vegan, dairy and meat free, thinking about the flavors that I like, obviously the flavors that my kids like as well, but achieving that really delicious, craving, satisfying experience of eating macaroni and cheese. Like my kids called it like fancy hamburger helper sort of thing because of the way that it tasted, the way that it looked, but obviously to an elevated level. And thinking about how you can adapt foods that are your constant go-tos with foods that you feel good about, that is minimally processed. And again, aim for your improvements in these choices and for your choices and for the preparation method overall to grow, evolve, and refine over time. Please, please, please do not expect it to be perfect 100%. It has to be incredible and wonderful and perfect to the letter for the first time starting out. Please, no. We are going the marathon. This is not a sprint. You are going to need to be aware and kind, patient with yourself on this process. Let yourself make food mistakes. Believe me, my kids could tell you I've made a ton of food preparation mistakes and thinking like, woo, mom's going on a creative whim here. And I mix foods together or try to make a sauce or some kind of dinner or something. And I tasted it along the way. And to me, it was like, oh, okay. And then, my kids will take a few bites and, yeah, it's pretty good, Mom. And then, fail. And that's totally fine. This should be a journey of growth, evolution, and joy with this learning process along the way. Because this is a component. This is a heavy, big, meaningful component on your journey that it doesn't have to be a punishment mindset to stick to a list, to measure, to log all your food. That has never sounded appealing to you. And for many, that they also feel the same. So if that's you, know that you can achieve success with this lifestyle, that it doesn't have to fall to this list or logging, measuring, stressful behavior, that it can come organically. Let these common sense choices improve and grow with you over time, because that is truly a beautiful component of this repair that happens from within on your journey. If you struggled with emotional eating like I did, that was a very, very big part of my journey. And it's still something that I take love, compassion, and care into the preparation and putting together the thoughtfulness of the food choices that I make on my journey. It's important. Please know that I truly believe that you can do this. If you are in need of supportive coaching on your journey, I'm here and I care and I would love to support you on your journey. In case you missed it, I am still running a promotion for 30 days of fasting support, which is 4 30-minute consults with me, as well as bundled with my official Fasting Focus Lifestyle Handbook digital download. TheFastingFocusLifestyle.com has more information on that bundle, as well as additional links and information. And truly, as always, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you so, so much. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review. Or if you have additional feedback or would like to recommend a topic for a future episode, feel free to email me, Vicki, VICKI, at thefastingfocuslifestyle.com. Thanks again, and as always, I believe in you, even if you don't. Take care. the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast. Copyright 2023. The information given within this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult your doctor before starting any weight loss method. Thank you.